Good evening, my little creatures of the night. Mr. Wendigo back again with your late night creature feature. Before we begin, I'm curious. Where are you listening from tonight? Alone in your room? Driving through empty roads? Drop a comment and let me know. I like knowing who's out there in the dark with me. Now then, let's see what tonight's tale brings us. Wendigo, at Pine Hollow. They told me I should have never gone back to East Texas that weekend. I guess they were right. Some part of me never left that clearing. Hell, I'm still standing in those woods right now, watching the house from between the pines, watching abuelita rock on that porch with Pinky curled in her lap. But I'm getting ahead of myself. November 2013, right before Thanksgiving. I was 19 and restless, halfway between growing up and running out of excuses to stay home. Jesse Garza had been my best friend since junior high, back when we'd spend summers fishing the Angelina River and winters hunting hogs in the bottoms. His family was from the valley originally, but they'd been in East Texas long enough to have roots deeper than the pines. When his uncle died that October, Jesse inherited the old house out by Pine Hollow, a ghost of a town outside Lufkin where the trees swallow the roads and the air smells like pine sap, red dirt, and rust. He called me on a Wednesday. "Dude, you gotta come out this weekend. Abuelita's making tamales." "I'm listening." "Fire pit, Lone Stars, maybe patch the roof if we feel ambitious." He paused. "We won't feel ambitious." "Sold. But if your grandma tries to set me up with your cousin again, I'm leaving." "Which cousin?" "The one who asked if I believed in chemtrails for 45 minutes. Jesse laughed. "That's Maria. She's in Arizona now. You're safe." "Thank Christ." "Pick you up Friday?" "Nah, I'll drive out after my shift. Probably hit the house around 7. "Cool. Abuelita's already planning to feed you until you can't move." "That's the only reason I'm coming." "I know, asshole. See you Friday." I didn't tell him that I needed it too. My dad had split 6 months earlier, moved to Houston with some woman he'd met at a trade show, and my mom was working double shifts at the hospital just to keep the lights on. Home felt heavy, quiet in the wrong way. A weekend in the woods with my best friend and his abuelita's cooking sounded like exactly the kind of escape I needed. I remember pulling up that gravel drive Friday evening in my '96 Suburban beat to hell, primer gray, but dropped low like a Cali cruiser. I'd put every spare dollar into that suspension, new wheels, the works. Jesse called it my Texican sled, half Mexican lowrider, half Texas truck. It sat maybe 4 inches off the ground and scraped over every pothole, but damn if it didn't look good doing it. The house sat in a bowl of pine trees, a clearing carved decades ago for loggers. Strange setup, main floor on stilts with 2 staircases meeting at the front door. One curled up to the living room, kitchen, and bedrooms. The other bent down into a concrete basement that smelled like damp soil and old motor oil. Jesse said his uncle used to work on trucks down there. Still had the lift and everything. The place had character, old character. The kind of character that came from 50 years of East Texas weather and not enough maintenance. Paint peeling, gutters sagging. A wind chime made of old beer cans hanging from the corner of the porch that clattered and clanged in the breeze. But it was solid, built by men who knew what they were doing, back when lumber was cheap and people took pride in their work. The bones were good, even if the skin was showing its age. The deck wrapped around 3 sides, all weathered wood and rusted nails. You could see the whole clearing from up there, maybe 100 yards of open space before the pines closed in like prison bars. Beyond the trees, nothing, just more forest, stretching for miles in every direction. No neighbors, no other houses, no one around to hear you if something went wrong. At the time, I thought that was the appeal. Abuelita Maria greeted me before I even killed the engine. She was small, maybe 5 feet in her house shoes, hair silver and pulled back tight. She wore a faded apron dusted in masa, And she had that look, the one all the old Mexican ladies have, like she could see straight through your bullshit and into your soul. Mijo, you look too skinny. Jesse, get out here and help him with his bag. I laughed. Just got the one, senora. I travel light. She waved me inside, already scolding Jesse in rapid-fire Spanish about not cleaning the kitchen. The house smelled like heaven, pork tamales steaming, beans simmering with bacon fat, fresh tortillas warming on the comal. My stomach growled loud enough that Jesse heard it from the kitchen. Dude, you didn't eat before you drove? 3-hour drive, man. I grabbed a gas station burrito in Livingston. He made a face. That's not food. That's a hate crime. Abuelita clicked her tongue. Sit, eat. You boys go play outside after. We didn't need to be told twice. The tamales were perfect masa soft, pork shredded just right, wrapped in corn husks that Abuelita probably made herself. I put away 6 before Jesse even finished his 4th. Slow down, man. They're not going anywhere. You don't understand. I've been eating ramen and gas station food for 3 weeks. This is the first real meal I've had since, I tried to think. Honestly, I can't remember. Abuelita beamed. Mas, there's more. I made 3 dozen. 3 dozen? Jesse groaned. Abuela, there's only 3 of us. 4, she corrected, nodding at Pinky. She gets the ones that fall apart. Jesse looked at me. You see what I deal with? The dog eats better than I do. The dog has better manners than you, Abuelita shot back. I almost choked on my tamale laughing. Pinky sat at her feet, a tan chihuahua with bulging eyes and a constant tremble, like she was perpetually cold or terrified. She watched me with the intensity of a much larger dog. When I reached down to pet her, she sniffed my hand, sneezed, then went back to staring at the sliding glass door that led to the back deck. She always like that? I asked. Jesse shrugged. Last couple days, yeah. Won't stop staring at the woods. Coyotes? That's what Abuelita thinks, but coyotes don't usually spook dogs this bad. After dinner, we sat around a rusted barrel fire in the yard, the kind you cut in half and prop up on cinder blocks. The flames flickered orange and gold across the tree line, carving the pines into black walls. Jesse cracked open a Lone Star and handed me one. So I'm thinking about fixing this place up, maybe rent it out on Airbnb. Out here, with no cell service? That's the appeal, man. Off-grid retreat. Hunters would eat this up. Hunters want electricity and Wi-Fi same as everybody else. You got no vision, JJ. I got realistic expectations. There's a difference. He flipped me off, grinning. Okay, what would you do with it? I looked at the house, at the deck, at the clearing ringed by pines. Honestly, nothing. Leave it alone. Some places aren't meant to be vacation spots. That's depressing as hell. I'm a realist. You're a pessimist. Same thing. Jesse laughed and took a long pull from his beer. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called out. The sound echoed through the trees and faded into nothing. You ever think about leaving Beaumont? Jesse asked. Every day. Where would you go? I shrugged. Somewhere without humidity. Colorado, maybe. Montana. Somewhere you can breathe without feeling like you're drinking the air. That's fair. I've been thinking about San Antonio. They got good jobs there, good food, enough Mexicans that I won't feel like the diversity hire. You'd miss this, though. I gestured at the trees, the fire, the stars. Maybe, but I'd have central air conditioning and a Whataburger within walking distance. Priorities. Damn right. The fire popped, sent sparks drifting up into the dark. Above us, the stars were so thick they looked fake, like someone had thrown glitter across black canvas. The temperature was dropping fast. I could feel it settling into my bones, that deep East Texas cold that's more wet than frozen. Then Pinky growled. She was sitting between Abuelita's feet on the porch, facing the tree line. Her hackles were up, body trembling so hard her collar rattled. The growl deepened, turned guttural, too big for a dog that small. Jesse grabbed the mag light from his chair, swept the beam through the dark. Nothing but drifting ash and fog starting to creep in low. The temperature had dropped fast. I could see my breath. Abuelita whispered something in Spanish, clutching the cross around her neck. ¿Qué pasa, abuela? Jesse asked. She didn't answer right away, just stared at the trees, lips moving in silent prayer. Finally, she said, El Hambre, Viejo. The old hunger. Jesse tried to laugh it off. It's probably just a raccoon, abuela, or a possum. But his voice had an edge, and Pinky wasn't stopping. She growled for another 5 minutes straight, that little body locked rigid, until Abuelita finally scooped her up and carried her inside. We followed. Jesse locked both doors, the front and the sliding glass to the deck. I noticed he checked them twice. When Abuelita went to bed, she burned sage near every window and told us to keep the guns close. Just in case, she said. In case of what? She looked at me with those dark, tired eyes. In case it gets hungry enough to come inside. Jesse and I stayed up another hour, sitting in the living room with the TV on mute, not really watching. Just waiting for something we couldn't name. You ever hear your uncle talk about anything like this? I asked. No, but he never stayed here in November. Said the hunting was bad this time of year. Jesse laughed, but there was no humor in it. Guess now I know why. We could leave. First light, we pack up, drive back to Beaumont. And tell Abuelita what? That we got spooked by some coyotes and a dog with anxiety? Better than staying here with whatever's making those sounds. Jesse was quiet for a long moment. Then, one more night. If anything else happens, we go. But I'm not running from my own property because of some animal. Okay. I didn't believe it was just an animal. Neither did he. But we were both too stubborn or too stupid to admit it. I went to bed in the guest room around midnight, but sleep didn't come easy. The house settled and creaked the way old houses do. But beneath that, I kept hearing Pinky's claws and the tile tick, 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 pacing back and forth in the living room. And somewhere between waking and dreaming, I could have sworn I heard something else pacing with her. Something heavier. Something with hooves. Morning came gray and cold. The fog hadn't burned off. If anything, it had thickened overnight, pressing against the windows like wet cotton. I woke to the smell of coffee and chorizo, stumbled into the kitchen to find Jesse already dressed, staring out the sliding door with his hands wrapped around a mug. He looked like he hadn't slept at all, dark circles under his eyes, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. Sleep okay? I asked. Not really. You? Same. Kept hearing things. Yeah, he didn't elaborate. Abuelita was at the stove, frying eggs in the chorizo grease. Her prayers from the night before had left her voice raspy, tired, but she was up before any of us, cooking, pretending everything was normal. That's what she did. That's what all the old Mexican ladies did. World falling apart around them, and they just keep cooking, keep cleaning, keep praying. Like routine could hold back the darkness. Pinky sat in the corner, eyes locked on the deck. She hadn't touched her food. The bowl Abuelita had set out the night before was still full. She won't eat, Abuelita said without looking up. Not since she started watching. Watching what? Whatever's out there. Jesse set his mug down too hard. Coffee sloshed over the rim. I'm gonna check the perimeter. Make sure nothing got into the trash or the shed. I'll come with. We both needed to move. Needed to do something other than sit in this house and wait for whatever was coming next. We stepped out onto the deck, and the cold hit like a slap. Maybe 40 degrees, but the humidity made it cut deeper. Our breath hung in the air. The pines were dead silent, no birds, no wind, nothing. That kind of silence isn't natural. You don't realize it until you experience it, but the woods are never quiet. There's always something, a bird, a bug, wind in the leaves, always. This was nothing, like someone had pressed mute on the whole world. That's when Jesse saw them. JJ, look at this. He was standing near the edge of the deck, staring at the nearest pine tree. I walked over, and my stomach dropped. Deep gouges in the bark, 4 parallel lines raked downward, starting about 6 feet up and dragging all the way to the roots. The cuts were fresh, wood still bleeding sap that looked black in the gray light. Each gouge was maybe 2 inches deep. Whatever made them had serious strength behind it. Black bear? I said, even though I didn't believe it. Jesse shook his head slowly, eyes never leaving the marks. Bears don't claw straight down like that. And they don't reach that high unless they're standing on something. He looked around. There's nothing here to stand on. We walked the clearing, found the same marks on 3 more trees, all facing the house, all at the same height, all fresh. Like something had walked the perimeter during the night, like something had stood at each tree, reached up as high as it could, and dragged its claws down to the roots. Marking territory. No tracks, no scat, no fur caught on the bark. Just the scratches. What the hell makes marks like that? I asked. Jesse didn't answer. Didn't have to. We were both thinking the same thing, nothing we knew about, nothing that should exist. We went back inside. Abuelita took one look at our faces and crossed herself. What did you see? Scratches on the trees, Jesse said. Big ones. Deep. She nodded slowly, like this confirmed something she already knew. It's marking territory, letting us know it's watching. What is? She didn't answer, just went to the kitchen and started pulling things from the cabinets, dried herbs, candles, a small clay bowl that looked older than the house. Abuela, what are you doing? What I should have done when Pinky started acting strange. She lit a bundle of sage and began walking the perimeter of the living room, smoke trailing behind her. Your uncle knew better than to stay here in November. He always went to stay with your tia Rosa until December. Why November? Because that's when it hunts, when the cold comes and the animals start to hide, when there's nothing else to eat. Jesse and I exchanged looks. Neither of us wanted to ask the obvious question. We stayed inside most of the day. Jesse cleaned his guns, a Glock 20 and 10mm and an old Marlin 30-30 lever action that had been his uncle's. I had my AR-15, a budget build I'd pieced together from Palmetto State Armory. Nothing fancy, but it ran. You think bullets will do anything? I asked. They'll make me feel better. That's not really an answer. It's the only one I got. Abuelita burned more sage. She'd moved on to the windows now, tracing patterns in the smoke that I didn't recognize. Pinky followed her around the house, staying close to her ankles, still refusing to eat. The cabin felt smaller than it had the night before. The walls seemed closer, the ceiling lower. Every creak made us jump. Every gust of wind sounded like something testing the doors. Around 3 in the afternoon, Jesse tried the TV. Static. He tried the radio. More static. Great. So we're completely cut off. The landline still works, Abuelita said from the kitchen. For now, I muttered. Pinky napped in the corner until just past noon, when she jolted awake, barking at the kitchen wall. We froze. There was scratching outside high up, maybe 8 feet above the ground, something dragging claws slow and deliberate across the wood siding, like it was testing the structure, like it was figuring out how to get in. The sound moved, traveled along the wall toward the back of the house, toward the bedrooms. Pinky's barking turned into a high, keening whine. Jesse grabbed the Marlin and threw open the sliding door, stepping onto the deck with the rifle raised. Nothing. Just empty air and fog and swaying branches. There's nothing here, man, he called back. But I could still hear it, faint now, moving around the side of the house, around to the front. I ran to the front window. Nothing. The scratching had stopped by the time we circled back, But the silence that followed was worse. We stood on the deck, scanning the tree line, guns raised, waiting for something to move. Nothing did. Maybe it left, Jesse said. You don't believe that? No, I don't. We went back inside and didn't come out again until dark forced us to. Sundown came too fast. The fog turned the clearing into a gray void, and the tree line vanished completely. We built another fire in the barrel, but it felt different this time, smaller, like the dark was pressing in tighter. None of us wanted to be outside, but none of us wanted to say it. Abuelita sat on the porch, wrapped in a heavy blanket, rosary beads clicking between her fingers. Jesse paced the deck, Glock tucked in his waistband, eyes scanning the trees he couldn't see. I stood by the fire and tried not to think about what had made those scratches, tried not to think about how high they'd started, tried not to think about what kind of animal could reach that far up and why it would be marking trees around the house. We should go inside. I stood up from the fire. Now. Yeah. Neither of us moved. The fire crackled. Sparks rose and died. Somewhere in the fog, an owl called out, then went silent, mid-cry, like something had stopped it. We all heard it. We all pretended we didn't. Inside, Abuelita said. It wasn't a suggestion. We followed her in. Jesse locked both doors again, checked them 3 times. Pinky wouldn't come outside. She sat by the sliding door, whining, scratching at the glass even though she was already inside. Her whole body was shaking, not the normal Chihuahua tremble, but something deeper, something that looked like terror. She knows. Abuelita's voice was barely above a whisper. Animals always know first. Know what? She didn't answer, just picked Pinky up and held her close, stroking her head, whispering words I couldn't hear. Then Pinky broke. 1 second she was whining. The next, she bolted shot through the gap when Jesse cracked the door and tore across the deck into the fog, yipping and barking like something had her by the tail. Pinky! Pinky, ven aquí! Abuelita screamed from the doorway. Jesse didn't hesitate. He grabbed the Glock and his maglite and sprinted after her. I cursed, snatched my AR, and followed. The fog swallowed us in seconds. I stayed maybe 10 feet behind Jesse, my flashlight beam cutting wild arcs through the white. The pines were so thick here that the branches interlocked overhead, choking out what little moonlight filtered through. Pinky's barking echoed from every direction at once, near, then far, then near again. Jesse stopped, breathing hard. Pinky! Here, girl! Silence. Then, from somewhere ahead, a whimper. We pushed forward, boots crunching over dead pine needles. My light swept the fog, searching for that little tan body. Nothing. Pinky, Jesse called again. Another whimper, but this time it came from behind us, then to the left, then straight ahead. The same sound, the same pitch, coming from everywhere at once. That's not her, I whispered. Jesse, that's not her. The whimper shifted, deepened, became something else entirely, something that sounded like a dog but wasn't, like something had heard Pinky's voice and was trying it on for size. She must have run back to the house, I said. We need to go, now. Jesse's face was pale. What if she's hurt? What if... That's when I heard it. A sound like breathing but wet, ragged, wrong, coming from behind us. I spun, AR up, light sweeping the fog. Nothing. Jesse, we need to go. But Pinky... She's smarter than us. She ran home. We need to do the same. He looked at me, and I saw it in his face. He knew I was right. He pulled the Glock, and we started backing toward the house. The breathing got louder. Then we saw it. It stepped out of the fog like the fog had birthed it. One moment, nothing. The next, it was there. It stood maybe 30 yards away, half hidden in the white, tall 7, maybe 8 feet, too thin, impossibly thin. Ribs like a xylophone pressing against hide that looked more like bark than skin, gray and cracked and ancient. Its legs bent wrong, jointed like a goat's, ending in split hooves that dug into the soft earth. It was naked. Or maybe naked wasn't the right word. It had never worn clothes, had never been the kind of thing that needed them. Its arms hung past its knees, ending in hands with fingers too long and too many joints, tipped with black claws curved like fish hooks. But the head, that's what made my stomach drop. That's what made every instinct in my body scream, run. A deer skull, but stretched, elongated, warped into something that had never belonged on any animal. The antlers were massive, maybe 10 points, but they grew wrong backwards, curling down like grasping fingers reaching for the earth. The sockets were empty, hollow pits weeping black fluid that steamed in the cold air. The jaw hung open, broken, dislocated, lined with teeth that looked like bone shards jammed into rotten gums. It saw us. I know it saw us, even without eyes. Those empty sockets fixed on us, and I felt its attention like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. It tilted its head, clicked, and charged. Jesse fired first 3 shots, center mass, the Glock roaring in the silence. I saw the impacts, saw bark and something dark spray from its chest. It didn't slow. I opened up with the AR, dumping half a mag. The muzzle flash lit up the fog like lightning. Rounds punched through it, through the trees behind it, and it kept coming. "Run!" Jesse screamed. We ran. I don't know how long. Time stopped meaning anything. The fog was everywhere. The trees were everywhere, and behind us, always behind us, the sound of hooves hammering the earth, branches snapping, that wet breathing getting closer. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, every breath felt like swallowing glass. But I kept running because the alternative was ending up in that thing's claws, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Jesse was ahead of me, barely visible in the fog. I could hear him crashing through the underbrush, hear his ragged breathing. We weren't heading toward the house anymore. We'd gotten turned around somewhere, lost in the white nothing. "Jesse!" I tried to shout, but it came out as a wheeze. "Jesse, where?" He didn't answer. The hoofbeats were getting closer. I could feel them now, vibrating through the ground, through my bones. It was playing with us. It could have caught us already, I knew that. It was faster than anything that big should be, but it was holding back, hurting us, driving us somewhere. I didn't want to find out where. A root caught my foot, and I stumbled, nearly went down, caught myself on a tree trunk, bark scraping my palm raw, kept moving. Then I heard Jesse scream. Not a word, just a sound high, sharp, cut off too fast. I ran toward it. Jesse tripped, went down hard, the Glock flying from his hand. I skidded to a stop, turned back. It was on him. The thing landed on Jesse's back with its full weight. I heard his ribs crack, not break, crack like green wood snapping under pressure. He screamed, high and broken, and tried to crawl. His fingers dug into the pine needles, pulling himself forward maybe 6 inches before it pressed down harder. I raised the AR, but I couldn't get a clean shot. It was on him, hunched over, antlers scraping the ground on either side of his head like a cage. It grabbed his shoulder with one hand, 4 fingers, too long, tipped with black claws curved like fish hooks. It dug in, and I watched those claws punch through his jacket, through skin and muscle until they scraped bone. Jesse screamed, and the thing pulled, his shoulder dislocated with a wet pop. The arm bent backward, elbow folding the wrong way. The smell hit me rot and copper and something frozen, like meat left in a broken freezer for years. The creature lowered its head and sniffed him, long and slow, like it was savoring the scent. Then it opened that broken jaw. It bit into his shoulder blade. I watched its teeth sink through jacket, through skin, into the meat and bone beneath. Jesse's body seized, back arching, and a sound came from his throat that I still hear in the spaces between thoughts. Then it twisted, ripped the shoulder blade clean out. Blood sprayed across the pine needles. Jesse convulsed, his remaining arm clawing at nothing. His mouth opened and closed, trying to scream, but only bubbles came out. The thing dropped the bone and reached for his ribs. I ran. I hate myself for it. Every day, I hate myself for it. But I ran. The fog swallowed Jesse's screams behind me. The sound of tearing, of breaking, of something wet and final. I heard all of it. Couldn't block it out. Couldn't make myself turn back. My legs moved on their own. Some animal part of my brain had taken over. The part that knew running was the only option. The part that didn't care about friendship or loyalty or anything except survival. Branches whipped my face. Roots grabbed at my feet. I ran blind, crashing through the undergrowth. No idea if I was heading toward the house or deeper into the woods. The fog was everywhere. The trees all looked the same. I could have been running in circles for all I knew. Then I saw the light. A yellow glow through the white, the porch light, the kitchen light, home. I burst into the clearing, legs pumping, and saw the house lit up like a beacon. Safety. I didn't stop until I hit the stairs. I exploded through the front door, slamming it behind me, hands shaking so bad I could barely turn the deadbolt. Abuelita was standing in the living room, rosary clutched in both hands, eyes wide. Pinky was at her feet, trembling but alive. She'd made it back. Smart dog, smarter than us. ¿Dónde está Jesse? I couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. I bent over, hands on my knees, and puked on her clean floor. ¿Dónde está mi nieto? Dead, I choked out. He's dead. It killed him. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just closed her eyes and whispered a prayer so fast I couldn't follow the Spanish. I grabbed my phone, no signal, tried Jesse's landline, dead, cut, probably. We need to leave, I said. Now, get in my Suburban. We drive until we hit service. We call the cops. It won't let us leave. What? She opened her eyes. It won't let us leave, mijo. Not until it's finished. Then what do? We wait. We pray. And we hope the sun comes fast. We locked every door, every window. I dragged furniture against the sliding glass door, the couch, the kitchen table, chairs stacked on top. Abuelita lit every candle she had, placed them in a circle in the living room, and sat in the center with her rosary. I took up position by the front window, AR across my lap, watching the clearing. The fog had thickened. I couldn't see past the deck stairs. Abuela, what is that thing? She didn't stop praying for a long moment. Then, the old ones called it by many names. El Hambre Viejo, the hunger that walks. My grandmother told me stories when I was a girl about a thing that came during the starving times, when the winter was hard and the animals disappeared. She said it used to be a man, long ago. A man who did something unforgivable to survive. You're talking about... Yes, her voice was flat. He ate his family, his children, and the land cursed him for it. Made him into something that can never stop being hungry, never stop hunting. I felt cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. How do you kill it? You don't. There has to be a way. Fire, maybe. The old stories say it fears fire, but no one has ever killed one. The best you can do is survive until morning. It doesn't hunt in the light. I looked at the window, at the fog, at the darkness pressing in from every direction. How long until sunrise? 8 hours, maybe 9. 8 hours, with that thing outside, with Jesse's blood still drying on my jacket. We sat in silence after that. Abuelita prayed. I watched the fog. Every few minutes, I'd hear something, a branch snapping, a soft thud, the sound of something heavy moving through the underbrush. But I never saw anything. The waiting was worse than the attack had been. At least when it was happening, I could react, could run, could fight. This was just sitting, knowing it was out there, knowing it was watching us, and being able to do nothing about it. At 10:47, headlights cut through the fog. A truck rolled up the gravel drive, a white F-250 with county sheriff decals on the door. A spotlight swept across the clearing, then shut off. A deputy stepped out, flashlight in one hand, radio in the other. I opened the door before he could knock. He was young, maybe early 30s, with a buzz cut and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from oak. His name tag read Tours. Evening. Got a call about gunshots in this area. Y'all been hunting? You need to leave, I said. He frowned. Excuse me? There's something in the woods. It killed my friend. You need to get back in your truck and drive to town and bring every cop you got. He looked past me at abuelita, at the candles, at the furniture piled against the door. His hand drifted toward his holster. Sir, I'm gonna need you to calm down. I am calm. I'm telling you there's something out there and it's going to kill you if you don't leave right now. Torres studied my face, saw the blood on my jacket, the scratches on my arms. Where's your friend now? In the woods, about 200 yards northeast. You'll find his body. What's left of it. He keyed his radio. Dispatch, 2 Adam 7. I'm at the Pine Hollow residence. Need a supervisor and EMS to my location. Possible 187. The radio crackled. Copy, 2 Adam 7. ETA, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Torres turned back to me. I'm gonna check the perimeter while we wait. The radio died mid-sentence. Not static, not dead air, just off, like someone flipped a switch. Torres frowned, keyed it again. Nothing. Dispatch, 2 Adam 7, radio check. Silence. Then, from the woods, a voice. 2 Adam 7, radio check. It was Torres's voice. Exact. Perfect. Coming from the fog. Torres went pale. His hand went to his gun. Stay inside, he said. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Don't go out there. But he was already moving, stepping off the deck into the fog. I watched from the window as he moved into the clearing, flashlight cutting slow arcs. His right hand rested on his holstered Glock, thumb on the snap, smart, tactical. Moving like he'd done this before. It didn't matter. Torres, the voice called again. His own voice, but wrong now, stretched thin. Dot over here. He stopped maybe 30 yards from the house. This is Deputy Torres with the county sheriff's office. Identify yourself. The fog shifted. Something tall stepped between the trees. Torres drew his weapon. For a second I thought maybe he'd be fast enough. He wasn't. The thing moved like physics didn't apply. One second it was 30 yards away, the next it was on him. It hit Torres from the side, launching him off his feet. He fired twice. I saw the muzzle flash, but the bullets punched through empty air. The thing had already moved. Torres hit the ground on his back, and the creature landed on his chest, hooves pinning his shoulders. I heard bones break collarbones, ribs, and Torres screamed, a short choked sound that cut off when it pressed down harder. The creature leaned down, those antlers framing his face, and sniffed, long and deep. Torres's hands scrabbled at the ground, trying to find his gun, but his arms wouldn't work right. Please, he wheezed. I have a daughter. The thing tilted its head, clicked, and smiled. I didn't know it could smile. It grabbed his vest and ripped, then it hooked one claw under his collar and dragged down, opening him from throat to belt. Torres screamed high and raw, and I watched his body arch, heels digging furrows in the dirt. The creature reached into the wound with both hands and spread him open. His screaming turned to gasping, blood bubbling from his mouth. It leaned closer, those empty sockets inches from his face, and pressed its face into his chest. It was feeding. I could hear it, the wet tearing, the grinding of teeth on bone, the slurping as it drank. Torres's hands clutched at its antlers, trying to push it away, but he had no strength left. His eyes found the house, found me. He mouthed something. Run. Then his eyes went empty. The creature lifted its head, face covered in dark blood, steam rising from its mouth. It grabbed Torres's ribcage with both hands and twisted, snapping the bones free. It stood, holding the ribs like a trophy, and turned toward the house. Toward me. Our eyes met through the window. Those empty, weeping sockets locked onto mine. Recognition. It knew me, had always known me. And it wasn't done. It walked toward the house slowly, deliberately. When it reached the porch stairs, it stopped, dropped Torres's body, and looked up. I stumbled back from the window. Abuelita was still in her circle, praying in Spanish, rosary beads clicking. "It's coming," I whispered. She didn't stop praying. From outside, the first step on the stairs. Thud. Then another. Thud. 15 steps. I counted every one. When it reached the deck, it stopped. The silence was worse than the sound. I could hear my own heartbeat, my breath rattling in my throat, the candles flickering in some breeze that shouldn't exist. Then came the scratching. Slow, deliberate, testing the door frame, testing the walls. At 1:57 in the morning, the power went out. The darkness was absolute. The candles guttered, flames bending sideways like they were being pulled toward the door. Abuelita's prayers got louder, faster. I crouched by the window, AR up, watching shadows move against shadows. Then came hooves on tile. Thud, thud, thud. Slow, measured, moving along the deck toward the sliding glass door. The handle turned, slowly, testing. Click. The door shifted, caught on the furniture. The couch groaned, legs scraping tile, pushed inward an inch, then another. "No puede entrar sin permiso," Abuelita whispered. "It cannot enter without permission." "That's vampires, Abuela." "Es lo mismo." The door pushed open another few inches. Antlers scraped the frame, then the smell rolled in rot and copper and frozen meat. I raised the AR, centered the red dot on the gap. The thing's face appeared. Those empty sockets, that broken jaw, black fluid dripping from the bone. "Get out," I said. My voice shook. "Get the fuck out." It tilted its head, clicked, and smiled. Then it shoved. The furniture exploded, inward couch flipping, table smashing, the sliding door shattered, and the thing crawled through. I fired. Full auto. The muzzle flash lit up the room like a strobe, and I saw it clearly, every detail burned into my brain. The bullets hit, punched through its chest, shoulder, face. Chunks of bark skin flew. It didn't stop. It crossed the room in 3 strides and backhanded me. I flew, hit the wall hard enough to crack drywall. Pain exploded through my ribs, my shoulder, my skull. The room spun. Through blurred vision, I saw it turn toward Abuelita. She stood in her circle of candles, rosary raised, and shouted something in old Spanish words that tasted like smoke and blood. The creature stopped. Actually stopped. It hissed and took a step back. The candles flared brighter, flames stretching toward the ceiling. 1 candle went out. Then another. The circle broke. The thing lunged. Abuelita dove sideways, and the creature's claws raked the air where she'd been. It spun toward her, jaw unhinging. I grabbed the fire poker from beside the wood stove and drove it into the creature's back with everything I had. It went deep, punched through the bark skin between two ribs. The thing shrieked a sound that shattered the remaining windows and spun, backhanding me again. This time I didn't get up. I hit the floor, tasted blood, and my vision went gray. Somewhere distant, I heard abuelita screaming, heard her running, heard the basement door slam. Then hooves on tile, coming closer. The thing stood over me. It grabbed me by the ankle and dragged. My back scraped across broken glass, across tile, across the threshold. The cold air hit like a slap. The thing hauled me to the center of the deck and dropped me. I was staring up at the sky. The stars were so bright. I thought about my mom, wondered if she'd miss me. The creature knelt beside me, hooves clicking on wood. Those empty sockets wept black tears that dripped onto my chest, sizzling through my shirt like acid. It grabbed my wrists and squeezed. I felt the bones grind together, start to crack. I screamed. The thing didn't stop. My left wrist broke first, clean, sharp. My right followed a second later. It let go, and my hands flopped uselessly at my sides. Then it reached for my chest. One claw hooked under my collarbone, just beside my throat. I felt the skin dimple, resist, then the claw punched through. The pain was fire and ice and electricity all at once. I felt the claw scrape bone, dig deeper, searching. It found the big vein under my collarbone. I felt it tear, felt the blood rush out in a hot gush, pouring down my chest. My vision started to tunnel, gray creeping in from the edges. The creature grabbed my shirt and ripped it open. It pressed one claw against my rib cage, right over my heart, and pushed. Slowly, I felt the bone resist, the pressure build, the ribs start to bend, then crack. It punched through, into my chest cavity. I felt it moving inside me, and my mind tried to shut down. But it wouldn't let me pass out. Every time the gray rushed in, it would squeeze something inside me, lung, heart, and the pain would snap me back. It wanted me awake. Its claw found my heart, wrapped around it, squeezed. Not hard enough to stop it, just hard enough to slow it. My heart stuttered. I felt my body start to shut down. The creature leaned down until those empty sockets filled my world, and it whispered something. Not words, just a sound, low and resonant, that vibrated through my bones. It sounded like hunger. Then it squeezed harder. My heart burst. I felt it rupture, felt the muscle tear, felt blood flood my chest, and the pain transcended pain entirely. Everything went white, then red, then black. The last thing I felt was cold spreading from my chest outward. The last thing I heard was abuelita's voice, distant, praying in Spanish. The last thing I thought was, "I'm sorry." Nothing. For a while, there was nothing. Then I was standing at the edge of the clearing, watching my own body lying on the deck, watching the creature walk back into the fog. I tried to move. Something held me there. I was still here. I'd always be here. The sun rose gray and cold. The fog didn't lift. Abuelita emerged from the basement at 7:23. She climbed the stairs, rosary still clutched in one hand, and stepped onto the deck. She saw Jesse's body first, what the creature had dragged back during the night, leaving it at the base of the stairs like an offering. Then she saw mine. She didn't scream, just fell to her knees, making a sound that wasn't quite a wail, wasn't quite a prayer, just grief, pure and raw and endless. When the police finally arrived, 2 more deputies, then the sheriff, then the medical examiner, they found her still kneeling, covered in my blood. They asked what happened. She told them the truth. Every word of it. The creature, the hooves, the skull face and the antlers and the way it had torn through us like we were nothing. She told them about Hambre, Viejo, about the old stories, about everything her grandmother had taught her. They listened politely, nodded in the right places, wrote things down in their little notebooks. Then they wrote animal attack in their reports. Black bear, probably. Maybe a mountain lion rare this far east, but not unheard of. They'd send out game wardens, set up trail cameras, put out warnings for hikers and hunters. The medical examiner looked at our bodies, what was left of them, and shook his head. Said he'd never seen wounds like that. Said whatever did this was big, strong, and hungry. Said we were lucky more of us hadn't died. Lucky, that's the word he used. They wouldn't find anything. I knew that even then, watching them work the scene, watching them photograph the blood and bag the evidence, they'd search the woods for weeks. They'd set up cameras and traps. They'd interview everyone in a 20-mile radius. And they'd come up empty, because the thing that killed us wasn't an animal, wasn't something that showed up on cameras or left tracks or could be caught in any trap. It was older than that, older than the cameras, older than the traps, older than the men who'd built this house, older than the loggers who'd cleared this land, older than anyone who'd ever set foot in these woods. It was the hunger, and the hunger didn't get caught. It just waited. I watched them carry Jesse out in a black bag, watched them do the same with me, watched them tag Deputy Torres's body and load it into the coroner's van. 3 dead, 1 survivor. The numbers didn't add up, but nobody asked the right questions. They buried me in Lufkin 2 weeks later. Small funeral. My mom, Jesse's family, a few guys from the tire shop. Pastor said some words I couldn't hear. Being dead does something to your senses, makes everything feel like it's happening underwater. My mom cried. I'd never seen her cry like that before, not when Dad left, not when Grandma died. She stood at my grave and shook, and I tried to reach out to her, tried to tell her I was still here, that I could see her, that I was sorry. She couldn't hear me. Nobody could. Jesse's family held a separate service in the valley. I couldn't go. Something about this place, about these woods, held me here. But I heard abuelita talking to me sometimes, late at night, telling me what had happened, how Jesse's mother had collapsed when she heard the news, how his little sister had asked if Jesse was in heaven, and nobody knew what to say. I tried to follow the procession from my funeral, tried to go with them to wherever they were going next. Something pulled me back to the clearing, back to the house. I was stuck. Abuelita stayed in Pine Hollow another month, long enough to pack up Jesse's things, scrub the blood from the deck, board up the shattered door. She worked slowly, methodically, like she'd done this kind of thing before. Every night she burned sage, every night she lit candles in the windows. And every night, when the sun went down and the fog crept in, she'd sit on the porch with Pinky and talk to us. To me, to Jesse, to whoever was listening. She'd tell us about her day, about the phone calls from family, the arrangements that needed to be made, the paperwork that comes with death. She'd tell us stories about Jesse when he was little, about the time he tried to catch a fish with his bare hands and fell in the river, about the time he told his kindergarten teacher that his grandmother was a witch because she burned things that smelled funny. I'd stand at the edge of the clearing and listen. It was the only comfort I had. Some nights, I'd see it too. The creature, standing at the tree line watching her rock on the porch. It never came closer while she was out there, never made a move. Just watched, those empty sockets fixed on the house, patient as stone. One night, abuelita looked directly at it. "I know you're there," she said. "I know what you are, but you already took what you came for. You don't get any more." The creature tilted its head, clicked, and faded back into the trees. I don't know if it understood her, but it didn't come to the house again while she lived there. She left on a Tuesday morning, December 17th, packed her car and drove down the gravel path one last time. I followed as far as the main road before the trees swallowed me again. I watched the taillights disappear into the fog, and I was alone. Years passed. The house sat empty. The forest claimed it slowly, kudzu crawling up the sides, pine needles piling on the roof, windows breaking in storms. The deck rotted, The stairs collapsed. The clearing grew smaller as the trees crept inward, year by year, foot by foot. But I stayed. Time moves differently when you're dead. Days blur together, seasons change without meaning. I'd watch the leaves fall, watch the snow dust the pines, watch the spring flowers bloom and die, and none of it mattered. I was caught in a loop I couldn't escape, walking the same paths Jesse and I ran that night, standing in the same spots where we died. Sometimes I'd find myself at the place where Jesse fell. The pine needles had long since covered the bloodstains, but I knew exactly where it happened. Could see it playing out in my mind like a movie I couldn't turn off. I blamed myself. Still do. I should have shot faster. Should have dragged him up before it reached us. Should have done something other than run. But I didn't. And now we're both here, Jesse and me, stuck in these woods forever. I'd see him sometimes, a shape between the trees, a shadow that moved wrong. We never talked. Couldn't, maybe. But I'd feel him there, feel that we were sharing this prison together. Sometimes hunters would pass through. They never stayed long. Their dogs would go crazy, barking at shadows. The hunters would leave, muttering about bad vibes. They were right. I was watching, but I wasn't alone. The thing came back too. Not every night, but enough. I'd hear the hooves on the deck, see it standing at the tree line, those empty sockets staring at the house like it was waiting for something. Or someone. Then, last year, 2024, abuelita came back. Just once. She pulled up in that same old Buick, older now, slower. The engine knocked and wheezed, barely holding together. She'd aged more than 11 years should allow her face carved with grief lines, her movements careful and pained, like everything hurt. Pinky was with her. The dog was ancient, 16 years old, blind in one eye, back legs barely working, but alive, still here, still yapping at shadows. Abuelita didn't go inside. The house was too far gone anyway, roof caved in, walls sagging, the whole structure listing like a drunk trying to stand. She just sat on what remained of the porch, in a folding chair she'd brought from the car. Pinky was wrapped in a colorful serape, reds and yellows and blues, traditional patterns her mother had woven decades ago. She sat there for hours, rosary beads clicking, lips moving in silent prayer. I drifted closer, slowly, like being pulled by a current. She didn't look up, but she knew. "I'm dying, mijo." Her voice was gentle, tired. "The doctors say 6 months, maybe less. I wanted to come back one more time, to say goodbye, to tell you I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, wanted to tell her she'd done everything she could, but the words wouldn't come, couldn't come. I was just a ghost, watching, helpless. Jesse's waiting for me, I think, on the other side. And I'll see you there too, when it's time. But for now," she looked toward the tree line, toward the fog that never quite lifted. "For now, I hope you find some peace, both of you. Ya descansa, mijo," she whispered. "Ya es tiempo. Rest now, child. It's time." But I still couldn't. She left before sundown, took one last look at the house and drove away. 3 weeks later, I felt something shift. Pinky died on a Thursday. I don't know how I knew, I just did. Felt it like a string snapping. That night, the woods went quiet for the first time in 11 years. No wind, no animals, no hooves on the deck. Just silence. I stood at the edge of the clearing and waited for something to tell me what came next. Nothing came. I'm still here, standing between the trees, watching the house rot, watching the forest reclaim what was always its. Sometimes, on cold November nights, I swear I can hear abuelita's voice on the wind, can hear Pinky barking in the distance, can hear Jesse calling my name from somewhere deep in the fog, asking me why I left him, why I didn't help, why I ran. I don't have an answer for him, never will. I miss it now. I miss everything. I miss the way tamales taste, the way beer felt going down cold on a hot day, the way my mom's house smelled like laundry detergent and coffee. I miss Sunday football and bad gas station burritos and the feeling of my Suburban's engine rumbling under me. I miss being alive. And somewhere deeper in the woods, past where the trails end and the fog never lifts, I can still hear it. Thud, thud, thud. Hooves on frozen ground. It's still out there, still hunting, waiting for the next group of idiots who think a weekend in the woods sounds like a good time. Hambre, Viejo. The old hunger. And hunger never dies. So if you ever find yourself on a back road in East Texas, and you see a turnoff for Pine Hollow, a gravel drive that looks abandoned, a clearing surrounded by pines, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't investigate. Because we're still here. And so is it. Well, boys and ghouls, that wraps up another terrorific tale from the vault. Boy, that one was fun, wasn't it? Poor old JJ. Thought he was just helping his buddy fix up a cabin. Thought a weekend in the woods would be good for the soul. Boo-hoo. Cry me a river. Turns out the woods had other plans. The kind of plans that end with your heart in something's fist and your soul stuck watching your own body rot. And Jesse? Oh, so sad. Such a good friend. Such a loyal guy. Such a shame about that whole getting his shoulder blade ripped out thing. At least abuelita made it. At least Pinky made it. Can't say the same for our boys. And that's just how we fucking love it. If this story crawled under your skin the right way, hit that subscribe button. New creature features drop every night at 8 p.m. Central, and trust me, tomorrow's even nastier. Leave a like if you'll think twice before accepting invitations to remote cabins, and drop a comment. Where are you listening from? What cryptid haunts your neck of the woods? I'm always hunting for the next nightmare. Remember, Hambre Viejo is patient. It was here before the loggers, before the settlers, before anyone thought to name these woods, and it'll be here long after the last house rots to nothing. Until next time, kiddies, keep your fires burning and your eyes on the trees. This has been your late night creature feature. I'm Mr. Wendigo, and the Wendigo are always watching.